Yo and hello, I am Vinnie Potestivo. This is I Have a Podcast, and on today's episode, I'm getting chills on this one. I get to introduce you to an amazing casting director that I have truly had the honor of just knowing ever since like early 2000s. We together have seen the evolution of casting and life and all of the changes along the way, and I am so excited for y'all to meet one of my best friends in the world, Kristen Paladino. From her start interning at SNL, like she was one of those like NBC interns, which is so cool. I forget about that sometimes. To casting the projects we've done together, her own projects, our projects. She runs Paladino Casting. It's been an amazing journey, and now we're going to talk about it. Casting's changed. I mean, creating has changed a lot. Like the recording has changed. You have to be an expert on like a bazillion different platforms, I feel like nowadays.
Yes, for sure. You have to be, because we're connecting with the world now on such a different level.
And they're connecting with you too, right? So it's like twofold, right? It's like, how do you find them? How do they find you? Self-records in, Zooms out, collaborative casting reels in. Talk to me about like how casting has changed since like 2020.
Well, I think the casting industry and everyone was set up for something like this in a way where we were doing such remote castings, connecting clients from all over the world, even if when we were in session. So I remember from mini DV tapes to CDs and the whole technology shifting throughout my career to this. And we shifted very quickly and efficiently for clients, because even if we were in the casting room, we still had clients coming, Skyping in or being able to video conference in during sessions when I was running like a New York session, LA session, someone in Europe, and we would be connected anyway if they couldn't fly in. But
it's fun.
Now it's
a
everyone.
Fun way to work with people, right? Like, did you, when you got into casting, was it because of like being in the room with actors and working, getting to work basically one-on-one with talent? Or was it just because, as a talent enabler, you know how to get the best out of people and you can now do that from anywhere around the world? Like what is it that got you into casting?
Connecting with people and being very curious. I started casting literally from street casting when I was sent out on a project to, it was when, early 2000s when times were changing and music videos were changing. And that's how I entered into casting from that start. And I literally went into the street and found people. So connecting with people and knowing like what that moment is, that this person is right for the project, approaching, listening. It's all these like, people skills and street skills.
But where did you, how did you get these people skills, street skills? Where does it come from?
Being self-aware. I think that's really important, and listening a lot. I think, my career started interning at SNL, and for 12 hours a day, 3 days a week, I sat around and listened. I was in the writing room. I, would do so many different things, but I watched, and that's where my whole career shift happened, where I was like, I want to be in this business. So I think listening, knowing your place, and connecting with people at the right moment is extremely important.
All right. Now did you go to school knowing that you wanted to be in entertainment? Did you go to school knowing you wanted to be in casting? Or
no,
like in entertainment? Did you know you wanted to be in entertainment though, right?
No, after I graduated high school, I went to a community college, and that, advisor, guidance counselor, that guidance counselor said, I have an internship for you. I think you'd really like. I knew I wanted to be doing something in communications, and she set me up with the SNL internship.
What?
And it really shifted my whole entire life. You weren't looking for the
SNL internship when it came to you? It knocked on your door?
It knocked on my door.
What guidance
counselor. I was like, all right, I'm going to do an internship. I think life experiences is so important to figure out what you want to do, especially like when you're graduating high school and not knowing what you want to do, but you knew you wanted to be in, connecting with people. I was like, I don't know, I'm a communications, major. And then I started working there, and it was it for me. That was it.
So when you say you were a communication major, there are a few traditional jobs that we learn about,
Yes.
in school, certainly back in the late 90s. When you're getting into the entertainment industry, casting is usually it's like PR, marketing, those tended to be like the classes that I took in school when they talked about like what could entertainment look like. And then I had one really cool class, which I found out now is like it's a full semester, but it was literally just a class about deal making. So I would have loved to have had a semester of deal making under my belt before I got to MTV. But it obviously didn't hurt my career at MTV because we make it up as we made it happen along the way. So after you and Molly both got to SNL at the same time,
we got there at the same time. Or it might have been my second semester, because they really liked me at SNL and they kept me on longer, and they never usually do that. We were a really special crew of interns that year, and I stayed for almost a year there.
And do you still stay in touch with the interns that were in your group? I hear that that's like a special family unit.
I do. One person in particular, and it's nice to see, everyone's journey, but there's more on the list that we lost touch on, but it was such a special time. And then we went to all the cast parties after. That was fantastic.
The infamous cast parties.
And those were like the hidden times at 11 o'clock. They tell you where to go and you just show up. And we were very appropriate, but it was just like major, awesome times in New York City then.
And how much networking did you do after 11:30 p.m. until 6 a.m. the next morning?
It was literally till that time. You just would meet people and talk to them, and, or you would invite with a guest, so you'd bring someone and you just have a nice time, and nothing was like over the top because I wouldn't have been there that long. You know what I mean? Like, we really just had a really nice time. And it was just like, I remember when the cast of Friends was on, I was like, oh my God, everyone's there. It was just so many different musical guests and iconic.
You're like, I have to get to the party early because the six cast member, show is going to hit capacity real quick. We got to show up early. That's what I started thinking.
One of them was on, and then like everyone else showed up. It was like one of those moments, but it was a really great. It was just a beautiful time in New York City.
And were there networking moments in relationships that happened, from past 11:30 at night? I joke around, but back then, that's when relationships happened. It wasn't necessarily, what could we do together? It was, hey, we were all picked to be on this one project together. So like, what are we doing next? And I felt like that was always the vibe at MTV. I'm curious about over at SNL in the late 90s, is the vibe like, holy poop, here we are, this lucky group of people. How are we doing? What's next? Right?
But I was so in the moment, I really loved what I was doing there. I was also contemplating like after my, after school, like, where am I going to go? So then I started working in production from there. And I was PAing from there into commercials.
And what kind of jobs did that, like, when you say PAing, was that researching, collecting information, props, what kind of? So I'm curious about the work that your hand, because you're so talented with your hands. So I love where this is going because I know how skillful you are with people. So like, I love hearing all the steps that it took. So hire you as a PA.
Hire me PA, but a friend of mine introduced me to someone who was doing locations. And that locations manager said, I'm working on a Macy's commercial. I'm going to bring you to set. Maybe they could use you as a PA. I wanted to explore. I was curious. I wanted to know every aspect of the business. So I went with him. I met the producer. She said to me, do you have a license? I said, yeah, I'm from Jersey. And she said, okay, you're hired. And she gave me keys to the truck. And I was driving these 15-pass vans with clients. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm going through the tunnel right now. But I said yes, and I went for it. So this is like part of my climb, by being in this moment and just like not knowing, but also knowing like I want to be here. And then I went back to school and finished college.
Not knowing like not knowing what you want to do, but trusting that somewhere in the process you'll find it. Also meeting someone who could see, you know, how they could work with you productively, and then also that you trusted them to say like, look, I don't think you're taking advantage of me, I just really don't know my space yet. So if you find value in me delivering, by the way, you might think it's driving a 15 pass van. I'm sure that the mental condition of those actors and crew members when they got there, I bet they were pleasant as pie. I bet they were happy. I bet you like mama birded them and got them feeling good about themselves and feeling strong and confident, you know?
Yeah. I was
So they
one of
get
the
all the
only
benefits
PAs.
of that.
Totally. And I was one of the only PAs like with the guys in the truck and dealing with like carrying stuff and lifting things and driving like these vans. And then from there, you know, you just watch and observe and listen. And I went back to school and finished my my college in a concentration in TV and film because I thought, okay, I'm going to go the route of producing or directing. And that kind of like led me back to finishing up school because like SNL was I just wanted to be there all the time. I was like, that's it. Like, this is all I want to do.
Well, yeah, I imagine why. So you go back to school, you get a degree in arts, a bachelor's degree in arts.
Yes, in communications. I finished in concentration in TV and film. So we did all the TV, like, you know, producing shows and news shows and this and that.
That's
and
so cool.
Yeah, it was super fun. So I was in the studio, William Patterson.
Oh, they got money. You had like a TV studio and like
TV studio.
Camera. Oh, I'm so jealous.
That had a really great group of people. And it wasn't a huge class. We were really, really tight group of people during that year. And then my dad passed away. And that was a pretty big shock in my life, right, as I was graduating and all that. And I finished graduating and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I went out to California and came back and continued with like PAing. And then I started coordinating and just dove right into work. And then I think all of this preparation led me to this opportunity that arrived in my life to go out and cast a project. And that's how it opened up.
And that's it, just from one project. And then that you were hooked.
The project that I was with this crew of PAing and then coordinating and being in the office all the time, they were casting a project and they didn't like the casting. It was like back when black and white headshots were there. And it was just like very typical types of people. And the director and a lot of those directors at the time were like groundbreaking. I mean, you know, MTV days, like those music videos in the early 2000s changed the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, yeah. And the dialogue and conversations that it took for that technology to happen, because the celebrity was there before the technology was there. It was kind of cool to see that shift happen also, where suddenly technology was incentivized to be expedited because the celebrity, you know, had the ability for instant reach, instant reach.
Exactly. Like, and a lot of those directors were game changers. Like they were just like, do you know what we're looking for? Like this, we're not happy with the casting. Can you go out and find these people? And I was like, hell yeah. And I did. I went out and found them on the street and connected with people, even if they didn't have a phone or social media. Like I was like, give me your friend's number. I'm going to call you. We're going to pay you to be on set at this time. Like I remember tracking down people in every which way I could, notebooks of handwriting, everything down. And we did it. And then from there, my career started. So
yeah, because the talent you were looking for wasn't necessarily talent that would be represented by an agent. It wasn't necessarily a host, or back then there were no host agents. It was probably just actors, maybe dancer agents.
It was very visual based and dancers.
Yeah, very visual, right?
A lot of dancers I worked with. Very visual, but to tell their story. I mean, music videos, there's not any dialogue, right? So you have to captivate the vision and bring it to life through like a moment or a vignette. And that's what these directors did. And they really changed the game.
So when you're casting music videos and vignettes, what are you looking for? What's the secret sauce to back then, what was is a sparkle in the eye? Was it a certain size, a height requirement, or some type of athletic? I mean, what really
All of
helped
it.
people?
All of it. I mean,
Yeah,
if there
what
was
really all of it, right?
yeah, all of it. I mean, if there was a scene on a basketball court and I had to find these basketball people, or I remember finding people that look like the music artist at the time, we had to find like who could be him younger, or people would give me, here's my family member, call them and take a photo, and then let's see if they get cast. It was like, there was no rhyme or reason, but I went with my instinct, and that really was everything. Like, I just knew meeting people or connecting with them, if it was going to work. And a lot of people thought I was like, who is this girl coming up to me on the street? Like, I would go up to anyone, literally knock on people's doors. I would find anything.
I just think about the amount of creative projects that we used to cast, 20 years ago versus the diversity of creative formats that were capable of casting for the variety of media platforms that are out there now. I mean, it's such an exponentially different, sort of converse. I'm scratching my head. I'm like, wow, it's such a different conversation now. And I think about where we're casting and where it's going and who it's for and what they're doing. How has your approach to casting changed? So I understand how casting has changed and the talent opportunities have changed, but how are you finding people or not finding people these days? Like, what are some ways that people can stand out? How can we grab your eye?
I think everyone has a platform now. There's so many ways for people to be seen on their own, whether they want to be in TV and film and get cast for projects, but everyone has a voice and is doing their own thing right now. So being proactive, I think, is extremely important. I have a database through all these years, so that's been extremely helpful. And we keep on filling it up all the time. Agents and managers, like working with them, I mean, I think their world has changed, with the influencer space and bringing in so many different types of people now on their roster is extremely helpful. And collaborating with
And I was going to say, that's a great point, though, when you bring up your newsletter about the value of being on a casting director's newsletter, because it isn't necessarily about, catching backstage or Actors Access or wherever it is that, we post these opportunities. Oftentimes, we want you and we want your support. So we want you and we want your support. Like that's how the relationship between casting director and person to be casted works. It's a very symbiotic relationship. We're out there looking for you as much, I promise, hopefully, as much as you're looking for us. I guarantee you we're at least looking for you that much, if not 10x more than that.
Yeah.
So by being able to create content, create your own series, anything that can be serialized more than just a single post. It's not just about, making a post and hitting a 10 a.m. deadline every single day, but, more so coming back and serializing a conversation, coming back to a conversation, to a repeat perspective or point of view where you can continue dialogue on another day. To me, that's something that really stands out.
Yeah.
When I see someone who's like, they know what they're doing, they know what they stand for.
And going back to them later on, if the one project doesn't work, we're thinking of you for another. Like, there's an imprint there. And we really want the actors to do well and succeed. And that's why we work with them. Like, there's that, casting directors are scary, but like, no, we're not. Like, I'm not. I like to talk to people, and we give people opportunities and work them through it because we want you to look good for us. Same.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, we're only as good as you look too, by the way. So let's be very clear. Like, we're only as good as the last person we cast, the same way, unfortunately, you're only as good as the last gig you booked. It's that hand-me. And by the way, unfortunately, that's how we're all known in this industry too, for our last hit. So, we're always looking for our next hit. And it's a very collaborative field. That's what I like about casting, is that casting, actually, it's between like 2 or 3 people. Casting director in the middle, actor, subject, person, band, group, business, whatever on one side. That's one relationship you've got to nail. And then you take that relationship and collaboration and bring it to the producer, and you work with that producer on what you just created with this. I love that part of casting. I love that part of development too. That's why I like the casting development piece. But you get more involved. You're producing and you're continuing the conversation. You're going further down the line
Yes.
with your clients. Tell me a little bit about how your services and like your skill set is evolving.
Well, actually, in like
it's
TV
not just
and film
casting,
world,
right? Like casting is like
casting. We're a mediator. We're a psychologist. Like there's a lot going on with understanding people. I mean, that's what casting. It's a main. If you don't like people, if you don't like know how to interact, you shouldn't be in casting. I mean, it's a really big source of how you communicate, how you speak to other people. It's extremely important. And
I love that you can't spell mediator without media. I love that.
Right. and you're right, Vinnie. We have both ends of it. We have the actor and the agent world that we talk to and negotiate. And then we have the client and director and vision of like what else is going on with the writers. So we really help bring those two together. I don't know. I love business too. So that's a big part of not just casting on the creative side, but I love running my company. And yes, my business has evolved and other opportunities are coming my way that I've always been helping and coaching, but it's been flourishing even more and more because the actors are not just actors. There's different dimensions to them. They have different skill sets. And I've been really helping people try to find it.
You've been listening to I Have a Podcast with me, Vinnie Potestivo. If you like what you've heard, please let this be the episode that gets you to leave us a solid 5-star review. Or you can subscribe and share us with someone you think could benefit from hearing the conversations we've had here at I Have a Podcast. You know, the ones that help you build a sustainable approach to creativity and helps you scale your personal brand. 5-star reviews, subscribe, share, whatever you do, take inspired action, and we'll see you at ihaveapodcast.com.